This video contains discussion of real-life violence, which some viewers may find disturbing. Viewer discretion is strongly advised. Hollywood is a place of dreams, but sometimes it also becomes the setting for nightmares. In the past 3 decades, 2 actors followed 2 very different paths, only for both journeys to lead into the dark world of violence, arrests, and murder cases. One was a rising star whose real life began to mirror the ruthless character he played on screen. The other was a beloved child actor who found himself caught in a deadly confrontation and on trial for his life. This is the tragic double story of Lloyd Avery II and Dee Jay Daniels. In 1991, a young actor with almost no experience walked onto a movie set and ended up creating one of the most unforgettable moments in modern film. His name was Lloyd Avery II, the man who pulled the trigger in the iconic scene that took the life of Ricky in Boyz in the Hood. But behind the camera, a darker story was unfolding. A story of identity, pressure, street influence, and tragic choices that ultimately led this rising star to become a convicted killer. This is the full story of Lloyd Avery II, the Hollywood role that became a real-life tragedy. Lloyd Avery II was not a gangster. In fact, he was the opposite of what people assumed after the movie came out. Born in 1969, he grew up in a stable, middle-class household in View Park, one of the few African-American affluent communities in Los Angeles. His father worked in the entertainment industry. His mother was a homemaker. Lloyd was artistic, quiet, and loved drawing and skateboarding. He attended Beverly Hills High for a time, a world far removed from the violence happening only miles away. By all accounts, Lloyd Avery was a regular kid, not a street legend, not a hardened criminal, just a young, creative soul with no ties to gang life. Everything changed when Lloyd's brother, Chi, a future music producer, introduced him to an open audition for an independent film being directed by a young USC film student named John Singleton. The film was Boyz in the Hood, a story about life, death, and coming of age in South Central. Lloyd wasn't an actor. He had no resume. But when he read the lines for the blood gang member who murders Ricky, something about his calm, intense stare made the room fall silent. John Singleton cast him almost instantly. When Boyz in the Hood premiered, Lloyd's face became instantly recognizable. His role lasted only seconds, but those seconds were explosive. Teenagers repeated his lines in school hallways. People in South Central would stop him on the street, and something unexpected started happening. Real gang members began treating Lloyd like he was one of them, as if playing a killer made him one in real life. For a young man suddenly received, the line between the actor and the character slowly began to blur. But Hollywood is cold. After Boyz in the Hood, roles didn't come easily. Lloyd landed a small part in Poetic Justice, and then the phone stopped ringing. Casting directors wanted polished actors. Studios wanted marketable faces. And Lloyd became frustrated, angry, and more connected to the streets than the studio lot. By the late 90s, Lloyd had begun spending time with actual gang members, people who didn't see him as an actor, but as a soldier, a symbol, someone who could back up the ruthless character he played. Hollywood identity was fading, street identity was growing. On July 1st, 1999, everything collapsed. Lloyd Avery shot and killed Annette Lewis, a woman connected to his ex-girlfriend. After a confrontation turned violent, witnesses saw him flee the scene. Days later, in Santa Monica, another man, Raymond Jackson, was shot and killed. Lloyd Avery was identified again as the suspect. Lloyd was arrested, convicted of double murder, and sent to Pelican Bay State Prison, one of the most violent prisons in America. Inside, something unexpected happened. Lloyd became intensely religious. He preached to inmates, quoted scripture, and often spoke about demons, redemption, and spiritual warfare. But prison is a dangerous place, especially for someone whose behavior stands out. On September 4th, 2005, guards found Lloyd unresponsive in his cell. He had been strangled. His cellmate, a self-proclaimed Satanist, was later charged with the murder. Lloyd Avery's story is one of the most haunting in entertainment history, a promising actor who portrayed the very violence he ultimately became consumed by. His story reminds us how fragile identity can be, how fame can distort reality, and how choices, even small ones, can lead down a devastating path. In the early 2000s, one of the most familiar faces on television was a young actor named Dee Jay Daniels. Starring as Michael Hughleys on the hit sitcom The Hughleys, he was loved for his humor, charm, and bright future. But years later, his name would return to headlines for a very different reason, one that shocked fans and forever changed the trajectory of his life. This is the story of Dee Jay Daniels, the child actor who found himself in the middle of a murder case. Born Dorjan Lindell Daniels in 1988, DJ entered Hollywood at an early age. By 10, he landed the role he'd become known for, the smart-mouthed, quick-witted son on The Hughleys, starring alongside D.L. Hughley and Elise Neal. For 4 seasons, Daniels was a staple of primetime television. His future seemed bright, but like many child actors, the spotlight dimmed as he grew older. When The Hughleys ended in 2002, DJ took on small roles, but nothing came close to the popularity he once knew. By the late 2000s, he slipped out of the public eye. He moved back to Northern California, living a life far from the Hollywood cameras, mostly unnoticed. On August 26, 2011, outside a nightclub in Stockton, California, a violent altercation broke out between several men. What started as an argument quickly escalated into a deadly confrontation. During the fight, 26-year-old J.J. Lewis was stabbed and later died from his injuries. Police responded to the scene and began interviewing witnesses. Police identified 3 suspects, and one of them was D.J. Daniels. The headlines were explosive. Former child star charged with murder. But unlike Lloyd Avery, D.J. Daniels' story was far from over. On December 21, 2012, after deliberating on the evidence, the jury reached a verdict. D.J. Daniels was acquitted of all charges. After spending 15 months in jail awaiting trial, he walked out a free man. Both men were actors. Both found themselves tied to murder cases, but their outcomes couldn't have been more different. Lloyd Avery II, consumed by the streets he once portrayed, died behind bars. D.J. Daniels, caught in a deadly confrontation, fought for his freedom and won, ultimately cleared of all charges. Their stories remind us that Hollywood fame can vanish in an instant, and that real life can become far more dramatic than anything written in a script. 2 actors, 2 murder cases, 2 lives changed forever.
Thanks for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe to Crime the Eway for more stories like these.